What's poppin', everybody? Yeah, I can spin the basketball on my fingers. I'm leaving YouTube to go to the Globetrotters tomorrow, actually. Oh, nah, but on the real, we are here today to talk about my top 15 albums of 2018, and I don't want to waste any more time, so let's just jump into it. Alright, so before I jump into the actual top 15, I gotta give a shout out to all the honorable mentions. I got it here in my notes right quick, so yeah, there's a lot of them, so bear with me, but I just liked a lot of albums this year. So it goes like this. Young Sinatra 4 by Logic, Milky Way by Boz, The Gray Area by Samad Savage, Amen by Puya. Oh no, my bad. Amen by Rich Brian and 5-5 by Puya, Memories Don't Die by Tory Lanez, Teo by Teo, FM by Vince Staples, Oxnard by Anderson .Paak, Stokely by Ski Master Slump God, Testing by A$AP Rocky, Blue Madonna by Borns, Doom by Scarlord, Between Somewhere by Token, 1.5 by Amine, Kitsy Ghost by Kitsy Ghost, Light of Mine by Kyle, Hive Mind by The Internet, Slow Down Kid by Ishdar, Daytona by Pusha T, and some rap songs by Earl Sweatshirt. I know that was a lot, but let's get to the actual top 15. I basically just jumped into it twice right there, my bad. Alright, at number 15 we have A Love Letter to You 3 by Trippie Redd. And I gotta give Trippie Redd props, cause I feel like his musical style really matured on this album. His beat selection got way better, and because of it, it seemed like his music, and at least in my opinion, it sounded like it had more power and more soul. It's not like it was he sampled a bunch of had a bunch of samples from the genre of soul, but it just felt like it had more of it, you know what I'm saying? I noticed that his voice actually sounded a lot better. It just sounded a lot more controlled on this album when he was rapping and singing. And that's not saying he was bad before, and it's not saying he's perfect now, but he just showed a lot of improvement. And overall, I just liked the vibes that Trippie was able to create on this album, and I liked how cohesive it was as a project, so shout out Trippie Redd. At number 14, we have Astroworld by Travis Scott. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I like this album way more the first time through, but that does not mean it's bad by any means. It's still a really good project. As a whole, it's still probably the most well-produced album of the year. And I like that whenever Travis Scott drops music, it's always different than everybody else, and it's always, every time he drops a project, it's just a breath of fresh air, and I appreciate that about him. And on top of that, whoever his editor is for his music videos, that dude needs an upgrade in his budget, because that man was going ham on the music video. So whoever his creative team, whoever he was working with for the music videos, shout out them as well. At number 13, we have Beerbongs and Bentleys by Post Malone. I come to Post Malone for one reason, and he definitely delivered on that in this album. He just makes really catchy pop music that isn't too generic, although he does still have some generic moments on this album. But if you compare him to all the other pop artists out there, he is leaps and bounds ahead of them just in terms of everything, dog. Like, he's a pop artist, but he actually cares about the music, and I like that about Post Malone. One thing I didn't like about this album was something that wasn't even really his fault. I mean, that's probably the goal for every artist, but when every single song started popping up on the radio all day, every day, hearing every song everywhere, that kind of ruined the album for me, but that's just because it was overplayed. That does not mean the album was bad by any means. This is still, if you're listening to this like the first time through, this is still a phenomenal album. At number 12, we have Redemption. I'm not gonna lie, I really don't have that much to say about this album. It definitely was an above average album. It was still a really good album, but like, there was nothing too special about it. There definitely were some hit songs and songs that I really enjoyed. You know, I enjoyed actually a lot of the songs on this album, but this just, for some reason, when it comes to actually talking about this on a list like this, I really don't have that much to say about it. It's just good music. J-Rock delivered when it comes to turn up lyrical rap. That's his bread and butter, and he delivered with this album. He did a really good job. At number 11, we have Ballads1 by Joji. So I came into this album only having listened to 2 Joji songs, and I came out a full-blown fan. It just blows my mind that Filthy Frank created that beautiful piece of art right there. It's just funny to think about. It's just that the vibes and the melodies that he was able to create and the way that he would write his songs around the beats, it was different, and it was just a really unique listen, and I loved it. I'm not saying he's different like outlandish, but you know, he's not just a regular ass mumble rapper, you know what I'm saying? I will admit some of the songs' lyrics were a little bit generic, but the sounds of the songs themselves made up for it. So overall, if you're looking for an album to just chill out to and vibe out to, look no further than this album. Joji definitely delivers. I don't know why I keep saying definitely delivered. I feel like in a lot of my videos, or at least in the videos where I talk a lot in them, there's always like 2 or 3 phrases that I repeat a lot. I'm not sure why, I just do, guys, but let's keep moving. At number 10, we have Care For Me by Saba. I only have one complaint about this album, and that's that the production was a little bit too stripped and bland for me. But at the same time, I do understand that that was done intentionally to let the flow and the lyrics shine, but I just feel like Saba made a great project, but if he had better beats, it would have been amazing, you know what I'm saying? And that's not saying the beats were bad by any means, but I just felt like they could have been a bit more lively. But there were a few exceptions of really good beats, like one of them being Life, which is actually one of my favorite beats of the year. That's actually a phenomenal beat, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a few standout beats, but for the most part, they're pretty bland. But at the same time, that doesn't take away from the music. Like, I still enjoyed it, obviously. It's number 10 on my list. But that's the best part about this album. The lyrics and the flow are... You're gonna be impressed. I know Saba's a really underrated rapper. Not a lot of people have heard of him. Like, I'm sure like the only songs people have heard of him, or like the only song someone's heard of him is that song he did with Chance Angels. But he's a really underrated dude. Actually, I was impressed with some of the flows that he was able to pull out, and some of the just how clever some of his lyrics were. Like, I didn't know he had it in him, but he did. So, you know, this dude is he's gonna be coming up. Probably 2019, he might blow up. Like, I feel like he'll blow up very soon. At number 9, we have Pieces of a Man by Mick Jenkins. I would say the best way to describe this album is like, I hate to compare albums and stuff like that, just because I know artists aren't, most artists aren't intentionally trying to sound like other artists, but I feel like this album is like a really polished version of some rap songs. I don't think that Mick and Earl sound the same, but I get the same type of vibe from both those albums, so that's why I make that comparison. But the biggest reason I love this album is because it's lyrical rap that sounds sonically pleasing. It has great hooks, great beats, and his flows sound good on those beats, you know? And that actually really impresses me because I know that that's something that a lot of lyrical rappers actually struggle with. Like, a good example was Royce da 5'9". I'm not trying to talk down on him, but he's a rapper that's been doing it for a long time and he's super skilled, but he still struggles to make sonically good music, you know? And I gotta be real, this is probably the second most well-produced album behind Astroworld. At number 8, we have DiCaprio 2 by Jid. This is hands down the most impressive project this year in terms of flow and delivery to me. Every single track, his confidence is just seeping through on everything, every word, and you just know he means it, and he definitely has clever lyrics here and there, you know what I'm saying? I don't think Jid is the most lyrical guy out there, but he definitely is a lot more lyrical than majority of rappers, so I give him that. But then again, he also has some really clever lyrics too. Another great thing is the production on this album is probably the third most well-produced album of the year because all of his turn-up songs, they slap way harder than they should, bro. I promise you. Play this album in your car if you haven't. You're gonna be having a good time, I promise that. And there's actually some really good vibey tracks as well, so I think people will be impressed with how versatile Jid is on this album. At number 7, we have Question Mark by X. This may sound like I'm biased just because I like the dude so much, but I don't think we're ever gonna see an album like this ever again, except for obviously any more music that X releases in the future. In my lifetime, I have never heard an album that was this versatile, that had this many styles and genres on it, and the way and the many different styles that X is able to use his voice in this album, it's next level. It truly is. And for how young he was 20 years old, and he dropped the most versatile album that I have ever heard in my entire life. I was blown away with this album. At first, if you watch my reaction, I really wasn't feeling it, but that's just because I don't know what was going on that day. I guess I just wasn't seeing the vision that day, but the more I listened to it, it grew on me immensely every single time. And it's just sad that he had to be gone so soon, y'all. Like, this man was so musically talented at such a young age. It's just, man. Just rest in peace to X, bro. That's all I can say. This album was phenomenal. I'm gonna keep bumping this for probably the rest of my life, man. Man. I'm sorry, I didn't want to bum up the mood, but that's just how I'm feeling right now. At number 6, we have Ye. Now, Ye is not Kanye's best album, and it's not my favorite, but I think it deserves more praise than it got. Ghost Town's No Mistakes and Violent Crimes actually became some of my favorite songs of the year. And I did like every song, but I mean, it is a 7-song album, so I would hope that every song's good. But yeah, this is another album I don't really have too much to say about, but it's just one that I really enjoyed. At number 5, we have Taboo by Denzel Curry. It might be just me, but I feel like Denzel Curry's voice got a lot better on this album. Like, it's always been good, but the way he's using it on this album, it's way more in control. It sounds way more professional. It sounds way more confident. That's not saying it wasn't any of those things before, but it's just more of that now. And it's kind of crazy because we witnessed Denzel Curry we witnessed Denzel Curry nearly perfect his sound on this album. He's always been good, don't get me wrong, you know, he's always been a great rapper, but he just improved a lot on this album, so that just speaks volumes to how good he is as a rapper and how good he is as a musical artist in general. There wasn't a single song on here I disliked. I liked how he presented this album. He dropped like 3 different EPs on I think, I forgot what weekend it was, but it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so people got to listen to like 3 or 4 songs at a time. It was an interesting way to present the album. I'm not sure if it really changed the effect that it had on people, but it was still a good project regardless, so shout out to Denzel Curry. At number 4, we have the Black Panther album. I can listen to this album to this day all the way through without skipping, because there's so many different artists, so many styles, so many genres mixing together, and Kendrick, as the whole curator of this whole entire project, he did an amazing job. He really did. I do wish he could have included a little bit more artists. Like, there's some artists that I feel that he left off that deserve to be on there, but it's not a big deal. We still got a lot of amazing songs out of it, so that's why it's number 4. At number 3, we have Good Thing by Leon Bridges. It's a really versatile album where Leon Bridges does a good job of mixing old and new R&B and funk and soul styles, and it comes out just a really good cohesive project. I know at first it may seem a little slow of an album, but I know just in my experience I had to listen to it like 2 or 3 times, but once I did, I really started loving this album. But for any of you die-hard hip-hop fans out there, if you're looking for something new, a guy who mixes some old and new styles together, I definitely recommend this album and his first album. At number 2, we have KOD by J. Cole. I know a lot of y'all are probably really surprised by it now, because I make it well known that he's my favorite rapper of all time, but I mean, when you see the number 1 spot, it'll make sense. But I think J. Cole definitely delivered with this album. He only gave like a 2-week notice and dropped it out of nowhere, and it still became probably what's his 2nd biggest album behind Forest Hills. It even broke multiple streaming records. And yes, it is now certified platinum with no features. And I think a big reason for that and why J. Cole is so well liked and so well loved by a lot of people is just because he's able to talk about a lot of deep topics in his songs and make them sound good. And then he also doesn't come off as preachy, where like someone like Hopsin, I hate to throw Hopsin under the bus like that. I don't like throwing anybody under the bus, but Hopsin's just a good example. He's a guy that likes to talk about deep topics, but he just comes off as too preachy, you know? It just makes people think that you think you're better than them, and that just makes people not like you at the end of the day. And that's why Hopsin's so hated, and that's why J. Cole is so liked, you know what I'm saying? And obviously he gets his hate, but at this point it's just a meme. Like, there's really not that many people that actually think he's a bad rapper, you know? I don't know why that turned into a Hopsin diss, but it did. My bad, Hopsin. Overall, I just love this album because it's sonically great music that says something, and that's why I like J. Cole's music so much. Alright, so at the number 1 spot, we have Mac Miller with Swimming. For the longest time, KOD was my number 1 spot on this list, but I gotta give Mac Miller props. He made a masterpiece. And I am ashamed to say that I didn't get around to listening to this album until after he passed, but I was blown away because I slept on that man for most of his career. It's not like I didn't give him a chance, but I would never go out of my way to listen to his music. But man, when I listened to this album, man, it was actually the night of the day he passed away. And bro, that was low-key a spiritual experience just because of what had happened that day and how beautiful that album was to me. I just fell in love with this album in every sense of the word. Every single song on this album to me is a 9 out of 10, most of them being 10s. And the thing I love most about this album is that it's just very self-aware music about, you know, his struggles with addiction, his breakup with Ariana Grande and the road to recovery and acceptance. And it's not, those topics aren't anything new, but it's done in just like a brutally honest way from Mac Miller. And I think that's the best way to make music, because that's the best way you connect with people, is by being real, you know? And that's why it connected so much with me. I just loved how different the production was, all of the hooks and melodies he was able to come up with. He had really unique flows, and just the subject matter and some of the bars were just really unique. It's everything about this album I love, bro. I sound probably like I'm biased or dick riding because he passed away, but I'm being 100% genuine right now. Everything about this album I loved. Alright, y'all, so that is all I got for this video. That is my top 15 albums of 2018. I want you guys to let me know which your favorite albums of 2018 were in the comments section. I'll be reading all of them. I also just recently dropped merch that will be in the description. It's like that little link. It takes you to the website of Teespring, and you can look through all my products. I don't have much, I have 3, but you know, if you're interested in helping me out, supporting this channel because of the whole UMG thing that's going down, I would gladly appreciate that, or greatly appreciate that. What am I saying? As always, it's been Isaiah the Player, and I'm gone. While I can,